for a lot of people, we don't behave on, there's ironies because we want to plug and play what works on site to this reality. Yet once we get to this reality, we're eating in front of each other. We're not wearing proper clothes. We're running to the microwave.
Yeah, people aren't wearing pants. I don't know why, but anyway, that's okay. Yeah.
Right, exactly. People will take themselves off camera and be part of a meeting on mute, so you don't even know they're there. They're not really participating or engaging in any way, which I've always said to people, would you behave this way if you were on site?
Of course not.
Around a boardroom? Would you just get up out of nowhere with no pants on, go microwave food in front of people and eat in front of people? Because if no is the answer to all of that, then why are we doing that here?
Welcome to the Good Life Coach podcast. I am your host, Michelle Lamoureux. The intention of this show is to awaken you to your fullest potential. Join me each week for inspiring interviews to elevate an area of your life, as well as interviews with women entrepreneurs who are creating success on their own terms. Each episode provides actionable tips to guide you to design a life you love. Hey there, it's Michelle Lamoureux, and welcome back to the Good Life Coach podcast. Today we're talking about improv and how you can use it both in your business and in life. Joining us is Bob Kulhan, who's an elite improviser and adjunct professor at both Duke University and Columbia University Business Schools. He's also the founder and CEO of Business Improv, which is a 22-year-old consultancy linking improvisation to business through behavioral sciences. His clients include a who's who of businesses from pharma to manufacturing to aerospace, universities, organizations, and more. And he's also the author of Getting to Yes and, which we will be talking about today as well. Bob has performed at Second City in Chicago and was mentored by Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and performed alongside well-known actors like Jason Sudeikis. And he's going to, in addition to giving us the best lesson he learned from Tina Fey, also just really help us understand how improv is a powerful tool to connect you to others, to improve communication and understanding with one another. My understanding of it was that it was really based on comedy. And I think what you'll find from this conversation and Bob's work is that it's such a powerful tool beyond that. And the skill sets that you can learn from improv really can translate into all areas of your life. The show notes for today can be found at thegoodlifecoach.com/137. So on that note, let's get into the show. Here we go. Hey, Bob, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. I've been intrigued with improv, and actually, I was looking into classes before COVID hit. So it's sort of ironic that, here we are now talking about it, and maybe I have an opportunity to get back into the idea of taking a class. And this is your sweet spot. 22 years of having your own business, teaching business improv and teaching, as an adjunct professor. So you are the expert. So let's start with a good foundation though. What is improv? You tell us in your words.
Well, it's a great question because it means something different to a number of different people. So if you speak about like the art of improvisation, that's a little different than how we apply it in business improv. Yeah. So I'll focus solely on the application of improv techniques as they relate to communication, collaboration, leadership, networking, etc. And improv to us then, as unique definition in business improv, is on three core competencies, which is reacting, adapting, and communicating. So if you start breaking each one of those down, reacting, one, is ongoing. It's not a reaction. That's kind of a one-off. Reacting takes place over time, and if it's ongoing within parameters or to achieve a specific outcome, you're adapting as well. So it's reacting and adapting. Think like a strategy to things outside of our control over the last year and a half.
Totally.
Or even a collaborative conversation with somebody. We're reacting and adapting. And that brings us to the third component of this, which is communicating. We're not in space. We're not in a vacuum. There's always someone with whom we can react and adapt, or something in our environment to which we should react and adapt. So that's the core skill set that we focus on in business improv and how we define improvisation.
So do most people, and maybe myself included, think of improv as comedy based versus, what you do is so specific, and I wasn't familiar with it until we connected.
Yeah, that easily. Comedy is the most common association. And you can go back to now how it's used in Hollywood and in the industry, the great TV shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway, all the great comedy clubs, which hopefully will open up very soon around the globe. That's one. It is easily the most common association. And other people, though, have the connotation that improvisation is what happens when everything else goes wrong. When your plan A and B and C, all your contingency plans start falling apart, then you have to improvise. And that really discredits the skill set needed to improvise at a very high level, let alone how to do it, effectively at just a base level as well. And so a part of our, I think, challenge overall is re-educating people that when they look at a comedy club and think improvisation, that's correct if they're improvising in the comedy club. Also, though, when you look at elite chefs in cooking competitions, if anybody watches Top Chef, they have a whole episode called improvisation and have year after year after year. If you think about musicians, they improvise, some specifically like in jazz, or you think about special forces, that what they call problem solving is what happens in real time after all of the training is in place and all the contingency plans and the strategy is there. And then what happens when truly the excrement's hitting the oscillator in real time? And then how are they communicating, collaborating with each other? How are they learning and adapting in real time? And how does agility play a part of that? And so really once you start looking at how you direct the improvisation, that's truly where the definition starts really carrying more weight.
But so is there a specific skill set from reading your book, getting to yes and the name of your book? I got the sense that there's, in fact, a skill set used when someone is doing improv. It's not so, random like most of us think it is, right? There's an art to that. I think you even say that it's intelligence meets instinct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's a learned skill set. And as a learned skill set, you can get stronger at it or you can get weaker at it as well if you don't practice it. It's very much has its own ebbs and flows. And if you just take it for granted and say, well, this is what's going to happen. This is the best I could do in this moment based on these circumstances. And you hear me becoming dismissive of it because it is.
Yes.
It's what most people just think of like, what's the best I could do in the moment, as opposed to saying, what skill set was I using in the moment and how do I get better at that, if for no other reason for myself, let alone a competitive advantage from all the other people who aren't even thinking about how to bulk up, how to react, adapt, communicate in real time. Because the extension of those three components really turns into collaboration. It turns into relationship building. It turns into the ability to create a cohesive team or psychological safety. It continues on and on and on, just a core skill set related toward improvisation. And it's something that all of us need to do every day anyway. So why not figure out how to get better at it?
It's true. I mean, when you talked about reacting, adapting, and communicating, that's pretty much in every scenario of our lives.
Yeah. The question isn't, do you need to do it? The question is, how do you get better at doing it?
How do you get better at doing it? And when you were talking about it, I was thinking about some examples in your book, but also, whether you're preparing for a presentation or a networking event or, your Twitter, as you talked about having your 160 was it characters, being able to explain what it is that you do. A lot of that stuff actually is taking thought and intelligence and care into what you're putting out in the world. It's not so random like the way that we may associate improv with being.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you take something like the Twitter bio, 160 characters, or what most executives or professionals think about as an elevator pitch.
Yes.
That's a reduction, right? In the spirit of cooking, liquid to something sticky, a sauce.
Yeah.
And if you are really comfortable with this skill set around improvisation, then you have your elevator pitch or your log line, if it's in the entertainment industry, or your Twitter bio, or however you want to frame it, this short, catchy, sticky little something that's going to get people interested in you or what you're bringing to the table. You use this skill set with improv and you adapt it from person to person based on what you're learning from somebody else. You take this networking event that you mentioned before, or the ability to network.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that networking is exchanging cards or sales, or I got to get something from you, or I have to show you what I can give to you, as opposed to how we look at it, which is relationship building.
100%.
Let's build this relationship quick. Let's make it meaningful. After the night's done and you've talked to a lot of other people and consumed several glasses of wine, I want to be the person that just sticks in the back of your head. I want to be the person that you're like, I'm going to save this card. I want to talk to Bob again, or somebody from Business Improv. And that means that you take your base knowledge, your training, the reduction, know your elevator pitch, you know it inside and out, and then you can change it from person to person based on little gifts and offers and opportunities that they're giving you just by talking with you.
Yeah.
And then you show that you're listening to them as well, right? And it's a basic human desire to be understood, or at least believe that we're being understood. So even in these short, like a networking event, opportunities to get together again, and this transcends proximity, it transcends medium. You can use this on the phone, you can use this
Interesting.
The Zooms or any of the social mediums that we have out here, and definitely use it in person. You tweak this base so that it's meaningful, impactful to essentially your audience on her or his own terms.
Yeah, it seems like active listening is essential, right?
Yeah, I was going to give you that old joke of what? Huh?
I mean, if you're thinking about what you're going to say instead of connecting with the human being in front of you or on the phone, then you've already kind of missed a good beginning, right?
An opportunity at the very least. And that's a basic human communication pitfall, really, that we just start thinking about what we're going to say next, as opposed to closing the dictionary, closing the thesaurus, just letting our natural intelligence come to the surface, take the pressure off of this and just say, I'm an intelligent individual. All I have to do is have a conversation. And ultimately, you can have the best conversation and they might not want to talk to you again. And you just have to kind of develop that skin, the alligator skin of, all right, well, if that's not a good fit, there's a reason why it's not a good fit. So let's find someone with whom it is a good fit. And that comes from listening. It comes from understanding and focus. It comes from empathy. It comes from vulnerability, not having all the right answers, not needing to square peg and round hole a situation so that I'm forcing something on you that I can see that you don't want.
Yes.
Using your spidey senses to say like, okay, you have something else either you want to talk about or you just don't want to talk to me right now, maybe, because I don't think I did anything to offend you at this point. I just said hi.
Right.
So,
or somebody's looking over your shoulder because they see somebody they want to talk to. I think we've all been in those business networking events. You're like, okay. I did read something once that is body language a part of the improv, Bob? Because it must be. Okay, you're shaking your head. I want you to talk about this. But I read something that they said, like, look at the people's feet. And if they're pointing away from you, not towards you, then they actually want to leave. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No, I've never heard that before.
You know what
just went on my head? I would change my feet as well just to mirror that person. I'm like, where are you going? I'm gonna go with you.
You going that way? I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going.
Me too. Where are you going? Bathroom? All right, that sounds good.
Right. Yeah.
I really do embrace whole body listening. So the way I'm going to describe this is, let's go to improv, and then we'll link it to business or more professional settings. Yeah. Improvisers, if you've ever seen an improv stage before, it's blank. It's chairs. That's what you have on an improv stage. And I'm talking about, I'm Chicago trained improviser. So we look for really organic improv. Don't repeat character. Don't repeat scenes. You want it to be 100% organically created in front of the audience 100% of the time to the best of your ability. So you start with just chairs on stage and then the other improvisers. They're important as well. And so this means every little thing that an improviser does on stage is a gift. It's an offer. It's an opportunity. You don't have to accept every gift. You don't have to jump on every opportunity, yet they're presenting something. And so you really have to pay attention to everything from foot position to spine, posture, from mask, facial expression, intonation. We can add the vocal part of this to it as well. If you take that same skill set then and apply it to something where you're not in front of 200 people, and they're expecting to laugh because this is their escape. This is their night out, their date night or whatever it might be. And now it's, I'm not to suggest that a networking event is easier or harder. It's just very different because it's typically not in front of 200 people. You're like small group conversations.
Yeah.
You apply that skill set out in that situation, and you're looking at eyes, you're looking at facial expression. You're looking at the body language, the full body language. What's the spine doing? What are their hands doing? Are they tapping? Are they fidgeting with their phone? Are they distracted? Are they looking over your shoulder? I don't know about the feet so much. I've never heard that before. And I can't say I've ever looked at somebody's feet unless I'm like, oh, nice shoes.
Right.
I think I think there's an opportunity to learn from so much of what a person does just on the physical level. Just the study of human character. And then once you start adding the vocal inflection or speed or intonation, whatever it might be, the ebbs and flows, the dynamics of personality, then really the game changes even more.
Yeah. What have you found with everyone going on Zoom and connecting, by virtually now instead of in person, although we'll be going back to that? What did you find based on, all your work that you do? Anything that you noticed people had a hard time with? Yes. So
I'm going to qualify here to say, and you and I've talked about this before, Business Improv started going virtual in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Your company,
started
just to be specific, clarify, Business Improv being Bob's company. Yes.
Yeah, that's a specific company. It's not an adjective to describe it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just clarifying.
Thank you. No, yes. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
So my company, Business Improv, started going virtual in 2010. We started delivering in 2017. So we've had 4 years of this. And so before the pandemic, it was one thing. And during the pandemic, it's something else. And it's built off of the one thing, which is people just are not comfortable in this medium. And the way that I keep using the term medium to describe this, we feel is accurate because this is a specific way to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, though, are taking a plug-and-play mentality. What worked on-site will just work naturally here. And it doesn't.
No.
And I'll very quickly say, do you act 100% the same way on-site than you do on a phone call? No. So why are we trying to do the same thing here?
Right.
So we're missing that adaptability aspect of this. And so there's a huge lack of comfort. Now, the Zoom fatigue is going to play a part of this as well. I want to focus solely on the comfort, though, because the comfort you could start unpacking a lot of different ways. We're inviting people into our homes.
Totally.
In many circumstances. Yeah. And that's not comfortable for a lot of people.
No.
Being on camera is not something that's comfortable for a lot of people. We get drawn to just our own physicality. What are we doing?
Totally. Right. I'm not going to look at you, Bob. I'm going to look at myself and play with my hair right now. Yeah.
Instead of like, well, I see me every day. I already know what I look like.
Right.
Instead of doing something similar like turning off the camera, we don't have to, all of the Teams, Blue Jeans, WebEx, Zoom, all of them have a function of turning the self view off.
Yeah.
And most people just don't do that. So until you get good at just ignoring yourself and understanding that it is still about the other person and also working the camera, that's something a lot of other people don't know how to do. That. They're not comfortable looking at the green dot, the red dot. And it's just like improvisation is a learned skill set. Using this medium is a learned skill set.
Yeah.
And a year into it, for a variety of reasons, including just stress, anxiety, just emotional turmoil, we haven't embraced this. Many people that I've seen a year plus into this are like, I'm really going to be the best I can at communicating, collaborating, building relationships through this specific medium. And whatever skill set I'm working on, which should be the people skill set, the human connection skill set, should be immediately applied on site at a core level, removing the technology. And so there's where I see the struggle taking place, that I think some as well are just waiting for this to be over. And the reality is, though I hope the pandemic's over very soon, this will be a way we communicate going forward.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people who are going to still keep some sort of hybrid model, a couple days in the office, a couple days at home, not sure how they're going to actually return to the work environment. And, it seems to me that environment does play a factor into what you're talking about. Human connection, when you're in front of somebody or you're in a conference room and you're all sitting around an oval table and you're looking at each other is one thing. There's less distraction. You're not looking maybe at dirty dishes in your sink while you're supposed to be focused on, Q4 sales report or whatever it might be, right? And so, or whatever, however it might look. So that environment obviously plays a big factor in all this. And it's interesting because you're standing. My husband stands all day at work. So all his Zoom calls, you're limber, and I'm sitting, which, even that creates a different energy, right? Because I'm sitting and you're standing. So your energy kind of can flow a little bit more freely. Like if I stood up now, but this is how my Zoom is set up and I can't stand up right now. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So for most people, and I'll just pose this as a question for you to answer, what happens to your energy when you sit down?
Well, I mean, I'm relaxed. I'm definitely very relaxed, but my legs are crossed. I mean, I'm conscious of the fact this may go onto YouTube and I'm like, oh, maybe I should be sitting up. Oh, am I slouching now? Oh, my hair keeps going in my eye. So all these distractions come into play, which wouldn't be there if there wasn't a camera on right now recording us. For me specifically, so if I uncross my legs, I might feel a little bit more relaxed. You know what I mean? I'm aware of the microphone. There's just a lot of different factors at play as the host of the show and wanting to have good sound quality and good, when this goes out, a good experience for somebody on YouTube too. And I am very much aware of the fact that if I looked at the green light, I actually would not be looking at you and then I wouldn't be able to read your body language. So I choose to look at the guest and skip the light because I care more about a connection than I do about looking good, like that I'm looking in the right place. Maybe that's wrong.
Here's what I say about this. And I start with the fact that it has to be your comfort. It's got to be something that you're comfortable with because we're looking for authenticity ultimately. And if you're not comfortable with it, then how are you going to be authentic with this? Yeah. And so that human connection is going to come not from always hitting the green dot or the red dot when you're supposed to hit it. It's knowing when to look away. Right. And ultimately, for a lot of people, we don't behave on, there's ironies because we want to plug and play what works on site to this reality. Yet once we get to this reality, we're eating in front of each other. We're not wearing proper clothes.
Yeah,
we're
people aren't wearing pants.
Microwave.
I don't know why, but anyway, that's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People will take themselves off camera and be part of a meeting on mute. So you don't even know they're there. They're not really participating or engaging in any way, which I've always said to people, would you behave this way if you were on site?
Of course not.
Around a boardroom? Would you just get up out of nowhere with no pants on? Go microwave food in front of people and eat in front of people? Because if no is the answer to all of that, then why are we doing that here? So it has to come from comfort. So for Michelle, for you to say, I'm more comfortable looking at Bob, I can see you're not multitasking. I can see that you're fully engaged. You're fully present. We're having a very strong connection in our conversation. So that works just the same as finding comfort hitting the dot.
Yeah. Are you hitting the dot when you're talking to me? I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you hitting the dot?
I try to hit the dot. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll come in close, but what? And especially when I'm teaching workshops, I play with my environment. I play with dimension. I play with proximity to the camera. I work it from a lot of different angles. Now, the energy thing, which is where this started from, though, is an interesting one because for most people, when we sit down, our energy decreases. Gravity works, and the chair becomes a vacuum. And once you start getting into more and more comfortable seated situations, or for some, horizontal, you start leaning back 45-degree angles. Now we're completely horizontal. And I have taught people business improv programs while they're in bed. They're just laying there. What do you think is going to happen to your energy when you're in a rocker recliner or a sofa or on your bed? Those are they're designed for comfort. So that vacuum becomes stronger and stronger. So really, and this is actually important for both on-site engagements as well as engagements through the phone or this medium. Do something about your energy. A little something before the engagement, especially if you're going to have to be on point for this, some kind of warm up, put some music on that gets you in the right zone, take a shower, hot shower, cold shower, whatever it is, so that you're not coming in after checking emails right away and phone calls right away and you're doing back-to-backs and you're just sliding into something that could be important to you as if you were late for this thing, and you're frantic. Come in with the right in the zone headspace and physical space for that matter as well, because energy begets energy. And this will happen for ourselves, that we can feed off of our own energy and get more and more energized. And we can feed off of other people who have energy. and I feel tired today, and you're bringing some energy, and all of a sudden I'm feeding off of you, and it becomes kinetic. And now we're not thinking about it. It's just a conversation. And once again, I can't stress, regardless of proximity or medium.
Yeah, no, this is so fun. This is so interesting. Now I have to ask you, because you performed at Second City in Chicago. And in your book, it just casually mentions, I was mentored by Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. And I thought, I didn't know that about Bob. That's really interesting. And you performed alongside Jason Sudeikis and Seth Meyers. I love those guys. I think they're so talented. Anything from that experience, from your time? I mean, you have your own improv group that does do the comedic piece, right? I mean, you don't just do the business side. But any fun story to share, any experience that we could maybe use your experience to translate into our own lives in a positive way? I mean, that's kind of a big question, but I'll let you take that in as an improv expert.
I'll go to, and you may have actually read this in the book, something that Tina said to me. So this was early in my career. I want to say 95 probably. And I'm hot to trot. I'm running and gunning. I'm playing with a lot of great people who are way better than me. And, that's given me a lot of confidence because, you want to play with people better than you, or at the very least at your caliber. And so I'm having a lot of opportunity. And in this, there's, I think, a moment that I just kind of slipped from being the person who I want to be and the performer I wanted to be, and turned into like, I want the laughs. I'm hungry for the laughs. I'm hungry for the spotlight. I'm hungry for this and that. And I was railroading people. I was just like stepping on toes. And I did this for a couple of shows, and she kindly pulled me aside a couple of shows. And then maybe and I'm going to say 3, just, good rule of 3s. After the third show, she pulled me aside and gave me a harder note, which is, your next show, do not be funny. Do not be clever. Do not be creative. Do everything you can to make everybody else look good. Support everybody else more than you're going to push any of your own agenda. And that's become a major driving force, because that is the type of person I thought I was as a person and a performer. And it's certainly the person I want to be. And so that's been front and center of like, I'll be great by making everybody else look better, doing what I can. I mean, I'm fortunate that I play with a lot of great people. So it's not like that. It's like, if they need to sit down and there's no chair, be the chair. If they're going to do a trust fall, be the first person to catch them before they hit the ground, because nobody on a stage is going to be like, I'm going to faint right now. No, if you're playing the character, you're like, you're going down, and you're like, so you have to be 100% present and engaged 100% of the time, because somebody could get hurt if you're not, and you're playing at that elite level. And so that focus on really making everybody else look good, sacrificing my own ideas to elevate somebody else's ideas, has not only become front and center for the way I want to conduct myself, it's really become a part of who we are in Business Improv. Because the reality is, Michelle, if I do everything I can to make you look good, and let's say, what's your husband's name? Steve. And I do everything I can to make Steve look good. And Steve does everything he can to make you look good and me look good. And you're doing everything you can to make Steve look good and me look good. Then it's not about Steve's idea and Michelle's idea and my idea. It's about our idea. Yeah. This idea that the team is more important than any one person. The idea that the process is more important than any one person. The product is more important than any one person. And what we find from this is that the collective intelligence of the group is going to be far greater than any individual. The collective consciousness of the group is going to be greater than any individual. And this, for me, always falls back on that old adage, the worst idea with great support will go much further than the best idea with no support. And so this unconditional support is not supporting bad ideas and elevating them to the surface. It's saying we're all going to have clunker ideas. We're all going to have good ideas sometimes. Let's figure out together which are the best ideas. And let's focus on supporting those best ideas, because otherwise it's going to be the worst idea that has the most volume behind it that's going to elevate to the surface, as opposed to the truly best idea that we can all push to the top together.
And such a profound, now I'm losing my train of thought, but it's just such a great example of how we should all be. And it's interesting because I think, having worked in corporate for so long, it's oftentimes the loudest voice. So maybe you were going for the laughs, or it's the person who brings in the most business, but maybe, the team has a better idea or a different idea that sometimes does get drowned out. And so I think that's an important lesson that we can all think about, and even just in our lives with our friends, right?
Yes.
Listen more than you talk. Be the person, that somebody can lean on, support them, champion them, get rid of, the little petty stuff that sometimes people do in these, relationships, see somebody else's success as your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It takes that do unto others type of mentality. And for me, makes it much more tangible because it's something that you can explain to everybody else. Because otherwise, that concept of treat others like you want to be treated is a great concept. It's also pretty vague.
Yes.
And so this really, for me, it's like that on steroids. It's like, oh, now we've juiced it up and we have a central focus, and that focus is on you.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on me, and we're focusing on everybody else as well.
Yeah.
And then all these ideas that come out, like I said, there's opportunity and possibility and potential in so much. And so those gifts, those offers, doesn't mean that you have to take every idea and run with it. It just means, like you said, postpone judgment enough to hear it, to consider it before you say no to it or before you run with it.
Yeah.
And then, especially if you have that power of collective consciousness, group, team, not group think.
Yes.
That's different. We're
Love
not talking
that.
about group think.
No.
We're celebrating unique perspectives. We're celebrating diversity of perspectives and thought. We're saying everybody be authentic, be yourself, bring that to the table, and let's make a clear distinction between individual perspective, which is what we want to celebrate, and individual agenda, which is where we're going to go.
I love it. That's what the whole world needs right now.
I think the world would be a much better place if everybody took just a little bit of improv.
Yeah. What you said literally gave me goosebumps, for real. I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. And it's, because we're feeling the divide so much right now in so many different ways. And being your authentic self is almost, it seems like there's so much of a focus on having everybody be in that group think and fit into where I feel comfortable because you're making me uncomfortable. There's a lot of that going around.
Absolutely. And we, of course, start falling into like a conformity bias or, that groupthink mentality where we only want to support thought based on how other people are supporting our thought. Right. And we lose perspective. We lose the opportunity to try new things, to develop new relationships.
Yeah.
And that to me is not only dangerous, it's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. And I feel like we teach our kids to maintain, or we try to encourage them to maintain who they are and what's special about them. Yet as adults, we're, shaming one another for having any thought that maybe doesn't coincide with someone else's.
It's the cancel culture that if you don't agree with me, I'm going to cancel you, as opposed to saying, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with you and try to understand why you think this way that I so vehemently disagree with. And look at, in the spirit of a Venn diagram, what's the overlap? What is that common area that we have so that if we truly continue to disagree, we don't have to be disagreeable with each other.
I love that.
We can still say, all right, we're on opposite sides of this fence. You're the Hatfields, I'm the McCoys, or the Montagues and Capulets or whatever. We're never really going to get along, yet that doesn't mean we have to be at war with each other.
100%. Completely. Now, your book is Getting to Yes and. What does that mean, Bob? What is that?
All right, so the book Getting to Yes is a pretty popular negotiation book. Bill Urey. Let's tip the hat really where this title came from. Yes and, though, is the cornerstone of improvisation around the globe. It is building block number one, and it has to be. So it means something, yes and means something different comedically or theatrically than the way we use it in business improv.
Okay.
Comedically, a lot of people will say yes is agreement, and the and then is building on what somebody else says.
Yes.
And that's fine if you're talking about ideation or really performing improvisation. The reality, though, is, especially if you're a solid improviser, it's not used the same way with veteran improvisers. And so the way that we define it in business improv, yes does not mean agreement. Yes does not mean I agree with you. Yes does not mean I'm going to execute a bad idea. Yes means I hear you. Yes means I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Yes means I'm present. I'm focusing on you. And I understand that you're bringing this to me right now. And then is the bridge to what you do with it. And is the bridge to the agreement or disagreement. And is the bridge to your knowledge, your passion, your voice, your vision, your drive, your authenticity. So more than anything, then, yes becomes thoughtfulness. Yes is you have my undivided attention right now. and is the bridge to how you're thoughtful, how you're present, how you're in the moment.
Love it. Instead of no, but, which is really where people default to.
Yeah.
Well, here's something, or it's yeah, but.
Yeah, yes, but, no, but. Those are the quick defaults.
Right.
Or just no.
Or
Especially
just no.
if you rise in rank. Once you rise in rank and status, the default is no. Or a correction of some kind.
And it just shuts. Yeah, sorry. It just shuts down communication though. There, that's it. Communication stopped there. Right?
Absolutely, because but's a trigger word.
Right. Now somebody's on the defensive and then they're not listening anymore. And the other person wants to defend their side. And so the communication breaks down.
That's it. For the extreme majority. I mean, there's certainly needles to thread with this.
Yeah.
And for me, the way to thread the needles is all about context, situation, relationship. If you really develop that properly, great relationships, you can call your best friend up on the phone and use any language you want, right? And your friend is going to understand. Your friend is going to connect with you and engage with you. And a lot of us think we've developed relationships correctly and haven't. Especially with missing like this, one of the challenges with operating through just a phone or these social platforms here is that social interaction, that just elbow time with each other, that opportunity to grab a drink or go for a walk, have a cup of coffee, eat dinner together. Everything has to be scheduled here. And so using something simple, because all we're talking about is framing of language, yes and versus yes but, it becomes very, very important in these short bites that we have through Zoom, for example. We have an hour together that, okay, what's the framing of the language that will either make you want to think about me or subconsciously it just kind of sticks in your head or you forget about me. And you don't remember the language at all. And then what are all these like little nudge factors that we can use as well in place to influence somebody else? The framing of language, though, is simple, and that makes it hard because most of us over time have just fallen into the habit of yes, but. We think it's the same thing as yes, and. And go back to Schoolhouse Rock. Go back to conjunction junction. What's my function? Yeah, exactly. What's your function? What's my function? I don't even know my function. So what's that function?
What's your...
They break it down to the letter. What is and? What is but? And they will show you very clearly that but negates what's said before it. It's not this, but that. And
that's right.
We learn this, and then our teachers don't teach us properly, and we just kind of like morph the language and pretend like it doesn't make a difference. And the reality is, in that spirit of the behavioral sciences, but's a trigger word. It will consciously or subconsciously set people off into thinking that we have to do a point counterpoint with each other, or I have to argue, or I have to change your mind, or whatever it might be. And it's abrasive to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's what you said. People just want to be heard and they want to be seen. So, and is an invitation, but is a kind of just like a strong it's a period. The end. Stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Or negation.
A negation, like you said, right. And then somebody's going on the defensive and now nobody's seeing or hearing each other. So that's not good in business or personally.
No.
So what can we learn? So most of us will be heading back out in the world again. Not everyone here who listens is in a business setting, but regardless, whether it's for personal reasons, getting together with friends, or for business reasons, networking, connecting, meeting new people, getting to, re-engage in the world, any skills we can take from improv to re-engage in a way that feels good. So
here's a couple of things. One, I cannot stress it. I mean, I wrote a whole book on yes and. So of course, that's going to be the go-to because it really is, you've been thumbing through the book. It's a Swiss Army knife. A lot of people just think it's just this brainstorming tool, and it's not. It's a really effective, powerful 2-word combination. So I would say cling to that. Let's just start with this one.
Right.
The next part of that, the extension, is postpone judgment. Because yes and is a great technique for postponing judgment. It doesn't mean abandon judgment.
Yes.
It just means I'm going to deliberately, strategically defer judgment. I'm going to push it off to another period of time. Mm-hmm. So as we're going into these situations, especially as it comes to something like anxiety or like a networking event of being around a lot of people, some masked, some not masked, did you get vaccinated? Didn't you get vaccinated?
Can I shake hands? Should I shake hands? Yeah.
Right. I would also say, I guess confusing situations in the spirit of scuba diving, stay within your comfort zone. Let's do that as well.
Right.
Nobody has a right to judge you for anything right now.
Right.
I told this to my wife. I'm like, I don't care if I'm the only person with a mask right now in an event like this. If I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to wear my mask. And if anybody has something bad to say about it, they're probably not going to say it to my face.
Right.
So, unless they have a bunch of beer in their belly, in which case I'll be like, great, fantastic.
Everyone needs to feel comfortable. I 100% agree with that. 100%.
Yes. So in that, starting with the base of really feel comfortable, stay within your limits, use the yes and to postpone judgment of the situation, postpone judgment of yourself in that spirit of feeling uncomfortable or feeling comfortable. Give yourself that permission to be like, I'm just going to handle this the way that I need to handle this right now. Because the last thing we need is an anxiety attack in our hotel room because it was just so overwhelming. Well, if it's overwhelming, peel out. It's everything's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I would say in that same spirit, there's a phrase, think slow to move fast, which you learned really early on in Chicago Improv. Just slow the brain down, be present, be in the moment, and don't get caught up in essentially what could easily be a riptide pulling you out to an emotional sea or a sea of people, physical, whatever it might be. Understand there's no riptide. You could easily just step out of this. So slowing down allows you to audit your own behavior, be aware of what you're feeling and how you're feeling it in real time. So that emotionally intelligent part of who we all are, recognizing that in other people as well. And you could be that in that spirit of make somebody else look good. You could be that lifeline that somebody else needs as they're being sucked out in an invisible riptide into what they think they're supposed to be behaving from conformity pressure, right? The peer pressure of everybody else doing something one way or another way, and they're just feeling uncomfortable. You could be that person like, let's step out of this. Let's go for what you don't have to be here right now. I don't have to be here for right now. There's a little nook in the corner.
Right.
We could stay 3 feet away from each other, have a glass of wine, or go for a walk outside. A little rain never hurt anybody. I won't melt anyway. I don't have
no, it's true. And I guess when I'm thinking about going out in the world, I wasn't even thinking about whether that included mask on or off, because like you said, somebody might have a little kid at home and they're vaccinated or not, whatever it is. Right. And so they're worried about their children and, there's just still, we're not out of it yet, but just being able to take into consideration what you talked about. All of those are great tips and allowing yourself some permission and some grace and some compassion for however it is, and allowing you to connect in a way that feels good to you, right?
Absolutely.
If somebody was thinking like, wow, I'd love to take improv or whatever, why should somebody even, you said everyone should know it. I think it seems super interesting. Give us your reasoning.
All right, at a core level, just learning improvisation. Improvisation, at its core, is a communication and collaboration-based art form. Yeah. So even if you're just learning basic communication, you're learning a really great skill set at really how to play nice in a sandbox, how to get along with each other. And everything that you mentioned before, if you're going to communicate, it is listening. It's active listening. It's focus. It's concentration. It's presence. It's engagement. If you're collaborating, it's postponement of judgment. It's flexibility and agility and the ability to not only bring ideas to the table, the ability to leave your ideas behind when somebody else brings their idea to the table or sees a common idea that's built in the moment of one common solution going forward. And it just has so many great aspects of how we can play together, how we can communicate with each other. So I would say when it's time, if anybody's out there wanting to take an improv class, there's a lot of great improv houses that are going to be opening up again, hopefully soon. And so you support local theater, support live theater, support those improv houses. And if people are not comfortable doing that, then of course, I have an ASIG program. So
right, that's right. Actually, you know what?
And I know me.
Yeah. Well, why don't you? I know you have an amazing deal for my audience, and just for clarity for my audience, whatever. It's not an affiliate thing. You're just said, hey, I'd love to offer this, so go for it. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I was tiptoeing in it. I'm like,
mention it. Of course, it's a great deal.
Thanks, Michelle. So the program is improvisational communication, and that's on Teachable. And when you go through improvisational communication and you download the worksheets and actually use the worksheets for self-improvement, personal and professional development, you will walk out of our program with a tangible action plan that says, this is how I will use these business improv tools and techniques for communication, collaboration, creativity, dealing with change, dealing with conflict, and ultimately creating a culture. something sustainable. This is how I can continue to use these tools and techniques going forward. So with improvisational communication, which is on Teachable, I think our coupon code out there is 50% off.
Yeah.
Which turns this into from a $249 program to I think $124. I think is what was sent to you.
Yeah, that's what your team sent. I'll link it up in the show notes so people will be able to find it at thegoodlifecoach.com. It'll be /137 for today's interview, and they can check that out and learn more about it. I'll for sure link that. And I mean, I'm likely going to take it because I've always wanted to learn more about it. It just seems like such a powerful tool, and it's interesting. And I've really appreciated this conversation because I think my understanding and hopefully what people have taken away from it is that the applications of it are so much broader than something to make you laugh. This is in fact a communication tool. It requires thoughtfulness, presence, good listening, like all these amazing skills that we all need to bring both to our personal and professional lives. So where can I direct them if I want to link your website? Where do I send them, Bob?
Businessimprov.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been a total blast. I've loved this conversation so much.
Me too, Michelle. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone out there is safe and has an easy transition to wherever we're going next.
100% to that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you gained some new information or inspiration for your life. That is the essence of this show is to really wake up to what's possible for you, to reclaim your beautiful voice, and to really learn to love and prioritize yourself. So if you gained any value from any of the conversations you've tuned into, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. You can do that right now on your phone. And please do consider leaving a rating and review if you have yet to do so on Apple Podcasts. It's actually how more women can find the show. And I really want to grow a community of women who are loving themselves and living full on. So thank you as always for tuning in. And I look forward to reconnecting with you next Wednesday. Bye for now.